He was a decorated federal judge. She was a celebrated spiritual leader. Together, they were supposed to be a power couple. But just hours after they said, "I do," one would be dead and the other in handcuffs. What could unravel a marriage so fast? Was it betrayal, a medical secret, or cold-blooded murder? Welcome back to Mystery Crime Vaults. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more twisted true crime tales where reality is far darker than fiction. Pastor Eliza Monroe had spent most of her adult life building a reputation of piety, self-discipline, and unwavering faith. As the head of Victory Grace Ministries in Atlanta, Georgia, she commanded immense respect. Her sermons drew thousands, and her teachings on purity and abstinence made her a role model for young women across the South. Her new husband, Judge Reuben Caldwell, was no stranger to the spotlight either. Appointed to federal bench at just 38, he was known for his strict courtroom demeanor and sharp intellect. A graduate of Yale Law School, Reuben was considered one of the rising stars of American jurisprudence. Many saw their union as a perfect match between justice and faith. But by the morning after their wedding, the illusion had shattered. Judge Caldwell was dead, his skull fractured after a violent fall in their honeymoon suite. Pastor Monroe was found sobbing beside his body, whispering prayers, her wedding dress stained with blood. She claimed it was an accident. The police weren't so sure. The two met at a leadership summit in Charlotte, North Carolina. Pastor Monroe had been the keynote speaker at a panel on moral leadership, while Judge Caldwell was invited to speak about judicial ethics. Their connection was instantaneous, an unlikely bond between scripture and law. Over the next 5 months, they dated quietly, mindful of public scrutiny. By the 6th month, they were engaged. Their wedding, held on March 8, 2024, in a grand Baptist cathedral in Atlanta, was a lavish affair. Politicians, preachers, attorneys, and celebrities attended. Everyone who saw them believed this was a divine match. They checked into the Grand Hyatt in downtown Savannah that evening to begin their honeymoon. What happened over the next 12 hours would leave the city and the nation in shock. According to Monroe's initial statement to police, the wedding night began joyfully. The couple shared champagne, talked about their future, and finally had time to themselves. Monroe had always been vocal about waiting until marriage, something she had practiced strictly. She believed Reuben shared those values. But later that night, as the couple became intimate for the first time, Monroe said she noticed something was wrong. It wasn't just nerves or discomfort. It was something physical, an infection, a smell, a discharge. She initially brushed it off, but when she expressed a concern to Reuben, he froze. Then, reluctantly, he confessed he had a chronic medical condition, a result of an old, untreated illness contracted during his early 20s. He said it was managed, mostly, but sometimes symptoms flared up unexpectedly. He had meant to tell her before the wedding, but he feared losing her. That wasn't all. Reuben admitted that his past wasn't as clean as he'd led her to believe. There had been a number of partners, more than he could count, some casual, some not. It was a phase, he told her. I was a different man then. Eliza was stunned. This wasn't just about her expectations of physical purity. It was about trust. She had built her ministry around honesty, discipline, and living by example. And now, on the night of their union, she discovered she'd been misled. She reportedly told Reuben that she felt deceived, humiliated, and spiritually violated. According to her later testimony, he grew defensive, mocking her for being too righteous and living in a fantasy. That argument escalated. Voices rose. Reuben allegedly accused Eliza of judging him unfairly. Eliza, in tears, told him she needed to leave the room and pray. He blocked her way. She tried again. He refused to move. At some point during the argument, Eliza reportedly grabbed a glass of water from the bedside table and threw at the wall, not at him, but in frustration. The glass shattered. Reuben responded by grabbing her wrists. They struggled. According to forensic investigators, Reuben fell backward during the altercation, tripping over a suitcase that had been left near the foot of the bed. He hit his head on the corner of a marble side table. The impact fractured his skull. He lost consciousness within seconds. By the time paramedics arrived, called by hotel security who heard screams, he was dead. Pastor Eliza Monroe sat on the plush carpet of the Honeymoon suite, cradling her husband's motionless body. Blood pooled beneath his head. Her hands trembled as she whispered verses from Psalms. She had called 911 moments earlier, but when paramedics rushed into the room, they found her disoriented, in shock, still in her bridal gown. Savannah police quickly secured the scene. The broken glass, the toppled suitcase, and the sharp corner of the bloodied table told a story, one they needed Monroe to explain. Eliza was cooperative but emotionally shattered. She was escorted to the precinct, where she gave her statement through tears. Her version of events was detailed and consistent. An emotional confrontation, an accidental fall, and an overwhelming sense of loss. She maintained that she never meant to harm Reuben, and she never touched him forcefully aside from trying to push past him during their heated exchange. However, the media wasn't as forgiving. By sunrise, headlines blared across Georgia and beyond. Wedding night, death. Federal judge dies after honeymoon fight. Pastor bride under investigation for husband's sudden death. From vows to violence. What happened in room 1602? Within 48 hours, a firestorm ignited online. Eliza's supporters believed her story. A respected pastor wouldn't lie about something like this. Others claimed she had a temper she hid behind the pulpit and suggested the fall wasn't an accident. Prosecutors charged Monroe with second-degree manslaughter, not premeditated murder, but crime stemming from reckless or negligent behavior. The evidence was murky. The medical examiner confirmed Reuben's death was caused by blunt force trauma from hitting the marble table, but no fingerprints were found on him that suggested direct attack. Still, there were complications. The suite showed signs of a physical altercation. Hotel security confirmed raised voices, and a loud crash were heard. The judge's family publicly questioned why Monroe didn't call for help sooner or leave the suite immediately after the fall. The court of public opinion was split, but the criminal court had one job: determine if Eliza Monroe's actions had directly or recklessly caused Reuben's death. Eliza's trial began 6 months later at Chatham County Superior Court. The case drew national attention. Networks ran daily updates. Court TV streamed the hearings. True crime podcasts dissected every piece of evidence. The prosecution argued that Monroe became enraged after learning about her husband's past and medical condition. They claimed she couldn't handle the truth and, in a moment of fury, lashed out, shoving or striking him hard enough to cause the fall. They painted her as an image-obsessed religious figure whose pride had been wounded. The defense presented a different story. A woman betrayed and blindsided on her wedding night, trying to leave a situation that overwhelmed her. They emphasized the lack of any history of violence in Monroe's past. Her community testified about her peaceful demeanor, spiritual integrity, and reputation for compassion. No forensic evidence placed her hands on Reuben in a way that would suggest assault. The pivotal moment came when the defense called Monroe to the stand. Her testimony was raw and painful. She admitted she had been devastated by her husband's confession. She wept as she described how her faith had taught her to forgive, but how overwhelmed she felt that night. "I didn't kill my husband," she said. "I was trying to leave. I wanted space. He wouldn't let me go. I never raised my hand to him. I panicked." The jury deliberated for 2 days. On the third morning, the verdict was read. The jury, find the defendant not guilty of second-degree manslaughter. Gasps filled the courtroom. Eliza wept silently. Her legal team embraced her. She was free, but not unscarred. Outside, public opinion remained divided. Some saw the trial as a miscarriage of justice, others as a victory for a woman who had suffered a tragic accident. Monroe returned to Atlanta, where she took a leave of absence from her ministry and stepped away from public speaking. The death of Judge Reuben Caldwell remains one of Savannah's most talked-about tragedies. It was a case about love, faith, betrayal, and the fine line between accident and crime. What happens when two powerful people collide in a moment of emotional truth? What would you have done if the person you just married revealed a hidden illness and a secret past? Was Pastor Eliza Monroe reacting out of shock, or did she let her pride and emotions spiral into a deadly mistake? Was it truly self-defense, or did a holy woman break under pressure? Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the Mystery Crime Vault for more haunting stories that dig deep into the moments where life and death hang in the balance. To understand how a fairy tale wedding turned into a fatal event, we need to step back and look at who Eliza Monroe and Reuben Caldwell were before they met. Pastor Eliza Monroe. Eliza was born in Birmingham, Alabama, the eldest daughter in a family of gospel singers. Her father was a deacon, her mother a choir director. The church wasn't just a Sunday obligation. It was the center of life. By 17, Eliza was preaching youth sermons. By 23, she had launched Victory Grace Ministries, an independent congregation that fused traditional teachings with modern community outreach. Her sermons, streamed weekly online, emphasized personal discipline, abstinence, and spiritual healing. She encouraged women to wait until marriage, to avoid worldly distractions, and to build lives on God's Word. She didn't just preach it, she lived it. Eliza had always kept her romantic life private. Rumors came and went, but no relationships were confirmed. Many in her congregation believed she was saving herself completely for her future husband. For years, Eliza seemed content waiting for that man to arrive. Judge Reuben Caldwell. Reuben's life was very different. Raised in Charleston, South Carolina, he was the son of a civil rights attorney and a history professor. He excelled academically, breezing through Morehouse College and then Yale Law. By his early 30s, he was clerking for federal judges and handling high-profile cases. Behind the scenes, though, Reuben's lifestyle was far less pristine. During law school and his early legal career, he lived fast, frequenting bars, maintaining casual relationships, and, according to his friends, living with few emotional boundaries. He was known to be charming, sharp-witted, and intense. But as he matured professionally, he worked hard to clean up his image. By the time he met Eliza at the Charlotte Summit, Reuben was 38, established, polished, and looking to settle down. Their romance felt like destiny. Eliza and Reuben's connection grew quickly. They bonded over their shared love of service. She through faith, he through justice. Their values seemed to align. He began attending Victory Grace, sometimes even speaking during special events. He presented himself as a reformed man who had found peace through spirituality. To Eliza, Reuben was a dream, a powerful man who respected her calling, who shared her love for Scripture, and who claimed to have left behind the chaos of his past. But behind closed doors, there were signs of tension. Eliza's closest confidant, church elder Teresa Huntley, later admitted that Eliza had expressed doubts weeks before the wedding. "She told me she couldn't quite explain it," Teresa said in a later interview. Just that something felt hidden. Reuben, too, confided in friends. In a text recovered by investigators, he wrote to a former colleague, "She's amazing, but I don't know if she's ready for who I really am." These private concerns never made it into public view. As police pieced together what happened in the Grand Hyatt suite, forensics became critical. The broken glass found in the corner of the room was confirmed to have been thrown, not dropped. Shards were embedded in the wall and carpet. The blood splatter pattern indicated Reuben fell backward with significant force. His head injury was consistent with a blunt force impact against a fixed object, the marble edge of the nightstand. Importantly, there were no fingerprints or bruises that suggested direct physical assault by Monroe. The only marks found on Reuben were faint impressions on his wrist, possibly from being grabbed or pulled, but not conclusively. The suite security log showed a noise complaint at 11:42 p.m. Monroe called emergency services at 11:49 p.m. 7 minutes. In those minutes, her husband lay dying. The prosecution pointed to that delay as damning. Why didn't she call right away? Why not run for help? Her defense attorney argued the obvious: shock. Monroe had never encountered such trauma. She froze, as many people do. She wasn't a killer. She was a newlywed watching her future crumble in front of her. After the trial, Monroe retreated from public view. She closed her church temporarily and moved in with her sister in Macon, Georgia. For months, she gave no interviews, declined book deals, and refused to go back on stage. But the ripples of her trial continued. Victory Grace Ministries lost over 40% of its congregation within 3 months. Multiple sponsors and donors pulled their support. Online attacks targeted her with cruel memes, accusations of hypocrisy, and even death threats. And yet, some voices remain loyal. "I don't care what the world says," one churchgoer wrote in a viral post. "Eliza Monroe is still my pastor. She told the truth. She stood her ground. God knows her heart." In early 2025, Eliza quietly announced the reopening of Victory Grace Ministries. The service was streamed privately for members, with a limited in-person audience. No press, no statement, just a single caption on the video: "I was broken but not destroyed. God still has work for me." Whether Eliza Monroe will ever return to full public ministry remains uncertain. Some believe her story is a cautionary tale about image, pride, and what happens when painful truths collide with idealized faith. Others see it as a tragic reminder that even the most righteous among us are still human. In the months following Reuben Caldwell's death, the legal world mourned not just a colleague, but a man whose career had promised so much more. His younger brother, Marcus Caldwell, gave a public statement outside the courthouse after the verdict. Reuben was brilliant, flawed, and still trying to become the man he wanted to be. "We don't believe he deserved to die, but we also understand that pain and secrets can destroy even the strongest people. We forgive, but we won't forget." The Caldwell family launched a foundation in Reuben's name aimed at educating young professionals on the dangers of untreated health conditions and emotional consequences of hiding one's past from loved ones. Their focus: honesty in relationships. Eliza Monroe did not attend the memorial service. Privately, Eliza began therapy. According to sources close to her, she wrestled deeply with her actions, not just on the night of Reuben's death, but in how she had idolized marriage. She had this vision. Her therapist later said anonymously that her husband would be her equal in discipline, purity, and purpose. When that vision shattered, she crumbled emotionally. One journal entry, later leaked to the press, read, "I thought marriage would be the reward for all my years of waiting, but it became the test I never trained for. How do you forgive someone who betrayed your dream before it even began?" In the eyes of many, the story was never about justice. It was about hypocrisy, idealism, and gender roles. If the roles had been reversed, if a male pastor had pushed a wife who died, would the public have been more outraged or more forgiving? Opinion columns debated the case for months. Some claimed Eliza was a hypocrite, preaching forgiveness and purity while refusing to offer either. Others said she was a victim of emotional betrayal, overwhelmed by the truth and caught in a tragic moment. Podcasts and YouTube channels dissected every second of the trial, turning the story into content. TikTokers reenacted the courtroom scenes. Even Hollywood came knocking, though Eliza declined every adaptation offer. One podcast summed it up best. This isn't a story about good versus evil. It's a story about image versus reality. A woman who built her world on faith met a man who had learned to fake it. When the illusion cracked, it shattered everything. Eliza Monroe. As of spring 2025, she lives in Macon, Georgia. She's restarted weekly devotionals online, drawing a small but loyal audience. Her tone is different, more somber, more vulnerable. No longer the glowing figure in white suits and perfect curls. She now teaches from her kitchen, hair tied back, eyes tired but clear. She has spoken publicly only once since the trial, in a brief message during an Easter service. Sometimes God allows a storm not to destroy us, but to reveal who we truly are when the mask falls. The Caldwell family. Reuben's parents have remained mostly silent, preferring to grieve privately. His brother Marcus continues to operate the Caldwell Foundation, speaking at colleges and churches about emotional honesty and preventative health. They have not initiated any civil lawsuits against Eliza. Victory Grace Ministries. The church reopened its doors in March 2025 with a new co-leadership model. Attendance is smaller. Donations are lower. But the remaining congregation believes this is a season of pruning, a chance to rebuild with authenticity and grace. What happens when the version of someone you love isn't the one they give you? What do you do when the storybook ending you waited years for reveals its chapters were forged in fantasy? The story of Eliza Monroe and Reuben Caldwell isn't just about a fatal fall. It's about the burden of expectations, the cost of secrets, and the danger of building relationships on image instead of reality. This case leaves us with questions only the heart can answer. Can betrayal be so deep that it breaks more than trust? It breaks sanity? Is faith still valid when it fails in the moment of greatest pressure? And is forgiveness possible when the person you need to forgive is already gone? If you were in Eliza Monroe's shoes, shocked, blindsided, and spiritually betrayed on the very night you committed your life to someone, how would you react? Would you walk away quietly, or would emotions take over? Was this a case of emotional self-defense or spiritual collapse? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story gripping, subscribe to Mystery Crime Vaults, where we uncover the truth beneath the headlines, one dark twist at a time.